Welcome back to another episode of the Wreck and Rise podcast. It's season 3, episode 3, if I'm counting correctly. And today we have a very special guest, our friend, Leanne Freymond, grief educator, all-around amazing human. Thanks for coming on, Leanne.
Thanks so much for having me. This is my very first podcast.
Oh my God. Well, welcome to the experience. I hope that our little setup is...
Our two-room studio.
Our two-room studio, opposite ends of the house. We're hopefully making it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is funny because we're in the same house, but we're in two different rooms because we couldn't all fit in one room for the studio.
We don't have enough equipment for us all to be in one room.
But that's the way you and I prefer it anyway.
Yeah,
Ellie.
I mean, we want Dave to be in a separate room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Poor Dave.
Yeah, tell me how you really feel.
He's outnumbered now. I know.
Definitely.
He is. I want to jump in right away with one question, Leanne, is what led you to pursue kind of this career path in helping people navigate their grief?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. I've had some experiences with grief throughout my lifetime, of course, and I've seen it done well and I've seen it done not as well. So that's one portion of it. The other portion is what I've seen it, how I've seen it affect people's bodies throughout different careers that I've had. And it's just astounding to me sometimes how grief does affect us physically and mentally. And I just thought there has to be some way that we can help people to work that out of their bodies, process it, and kind of move forward in a better way. And so after a lot of research, I settled on Grief Educator. So that's how we ended up here today.
Amazing. That's awesome. And you also volunteer at hospice.
I do. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I have a few different areas that I work there as well.
That's amazing. When you say you've seen grief kind of come up for people and affect their bodies physically, do you mean through illness, different types of can you go into more detail about what you've seen?
Right. So I was a CrossFit instructor at one point, and just seeing how people are able to, and we talked about this in an earlier conversation today, how people are able to push themselves and they're able to do amazing things and accomplish fantastic feats. And yet they get to a certain point sometimes and there's a breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. And they just physically have to stop. Maybe they're sobbing. They just have to have that release. So I was seeing that every once in a while, and it's just everything building up. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden their body's like, we can't take this anymore. And it shuts down and that's it. So there's that. I'm also a cupping practitioner. And so a big thing that I often see, Dave, you probably saw it as a massage therapist, is the resistance in people's bodies. They're so used to protecting themselves and not allowing those emotions to come out, not allowing themselves to feel those emotions. And you can feel it, literally feel it in their bodies. And sometimes as you're going through a cupping session, people will have a very emotional response to what's happening with their bodies because it is kind of bringing up some of those emotions. And so, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Dave, do you want to speak to that more? Or?
Yeah, no, I'll touch on that. I'm hoping that the audio and everything comes back because for a period of time while Leanne was speaking, it was really choppy, and so I'm kind of worried that it may come out that way. I wonder if we may have to start again. I wonder if I jump out of this, and I was thinking I might use my phone. But I don't know if it'll make much difference because we're both on the same Wi-Fi network. But anyways, it seems to be fine now. So hopefully we've ridden that wave and it's all good now. But I guess we'll see.
Classic technical difficulties.
That's right.
My least favorite thing about podcasting.
Maybe it was just that initial little glitch and little bump. We're good to go, but we'll carry on. So again, I'll touch on that point. That grief process and with related to massage therapy. Leanne, like you're 100% correct. A lot of people do store emotional trauma or emotional symptoms within those soft tissue structures, and a lot of times they're not even aware that they're storing that. And they get on the table. Sometimes it could be for a completely different ailment or a completely different thing that they're seeking, and all of a sudden you'll come to some trigger points, come to some areas of tension, and things will get released, and that will be the emotional release that has been built up and stored, and sometimes it can be uncontrollable, and they'll get very emotional and not really understand why. And so it's on us to kind of educate them as healthcare providers, to educate them on, okay, this is a normal response, and let's take it back a little bit. Maybe you've experienced some grief, some trauma in the last little while, and this is where things have been stored, and now we're able to kind of release that and recognize that and acknowledge it and work through it together, and just communicate with them. So I have had similar experience when I was a massage therapist with people that have gone through grief in a relatively recent period, and that's the result is just that emotional release. And it's a good thing. It's a really good thing that they're able to have that. And because if you don't, it continues to be stored up and bottled up in our soft tissue structures, and like you mentioned, it does affect the body physiologically. And so they could be struggling with headaches for a period of time and not understand why. They could be changing their diet, could be hydrating more, thinking that they're doing all the right things to combat those headaches, when really it could be just they have so much of that emotional trauma and that grief stored that that's the release that needs to happen, is from sort of that external source of a massage therapist or cupping or another therapist, to have physical interaction with them and have it released. So
exactly.
It's interesting. Before, I just wanted to throw a couple little quotes out there. I really think I'm confident that our phones really listen to us. We've been, Ali and I have been talking about this episode coming up and dealing with grief and stuff. And so just going through my social media feed and all the threads, and all of a sudden this thread came up that was a link to Jim Carrey, a quote that he quoted some time ago, and it was related to grief. So I'm just going to read it now. What Jim Carrey once said, grief is not just an emotion. It's an unraveling, a space where something once lived but is now gone. It carves through you, leaving a hollow ache where love once resided. Grief is not a burden to be hidden. It is not a weakness to be ashamed of. It is the deepest proof that love existed, that something beautiful once touched your life. So let yourself feel it. Let yourself mourn. Let yourself remember. There is no timeline, no quote unquote right way to grieve. Some days will be heavy. Some will feel lighter. Some moments will bring unexpected waves of sadness, while others will fill you with gratitude for the love you were lucky enough to experience. Honor your grief, for it is sacred. It is a testament to the depth of your heart. And I love that. Like, I think that's a great explanation, in my opinion, of how people can look at navigating through the grief process, is that it should be honored, and it shouldn't be hidden at all. So I just, that was my opening thoughts and opening lines, because I really think that is a very impactful statement that was by Jim Carrey.
Yeah, so good. He brought out a lot of really good points.
Yeah, for sure. So Ali posed the question earlier of how you got involved with helping others navigate the grieving process. So just a follow up on that. Do you feel that there is a quote unquote process or a step-by-step plan, if you will, when it comes to grief, or do you find it to be ever changing, evolving in one direction or another?
It's very, very individualized for sure. I mean, a lot of people have heard about Kubler-Ross and David Kessler's 5 stages. There's actually 6 stages now of grief, which, you know, we can experience as we're going through that process. But everyone grieves very differently. And as mentioned in your quote, you know, the timelines are different. Everything is so individualized. And it depends on the situation too. So yeah, it's very different for everyone every time.
Mm-hmm. And aren't those, correct me if I'm wrong or thinking of something else, but aren't those stages, weren't they meant to be like, I think we view them as like, now you're in the denial phase, now you're in this phase, now you're in this phase, and once you're done with one phase, you're like done with it forever. But wasn't that never meant to be interpreted that way? But that's how it kind of got. And now we're starting to understand more, and it's the conversation around it is changing. But like, is that what you're referring to in those like phases? Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah. Those are the different stages. And I mean, it's just kind of information for you to understand, oh, anger is a part of this process. Denial is a part of this process. Bargaining, you know, sadness, acceptance, denial. And then, the very last one that they've added in since is meaning. Yeah. So, I mean, it just helps us to get our heads around it, understand that it's normal, and that we do experience all of these different things. And like you say, it could be one thing one day, something another, or it could be combinations of those, right? So yeah, again, very individualized.
Yeah, and complex too, right? It's not just one thing all the time.
Right.
And even if you're having kind of a good week and you kind of think, okay, you're feeling like you're maybe moving forward or making progress, whatever you want to call it, and then all of a sudden another wave comes and just knocks you on your ass, and you feel like you're sort of at day one again, because it is forever ongoing and changing and growing with us as we change and go through life too. So it's like trying to switch your brain from thinking like, now I'm on this phase and I'm going to be quote unquote okay now. It's like, no, it's going to be, some days are going to be really freaking hard and heavy, and other days you're going to be like really on the ball, and it's going to be more still with you, but a bit more maybe on the back burner for a day or two or whatever. And then something comes up and it feels real heavy on your chest again. Like it's forever changing in my experience so far.
Yeah. And we have a lot of expectations surrounding that as well, right? Like, oh, I'll just take a week off work and I'll be fine. Right. And because society has all of these expectations and sets out these things, but society doesn't like to be uncomfortable in any sense whatsoever. And so grief and pain is very uncomfortable. And people don't want to have to deal with that. Yeah.
And people want you to be happy again and go back to your old self. And, you know, you see one of your friends or family in pain, you want to fix it for them. But in grief, there is no quote unquote fixing it. All you can do is sit with someone in their uncomfortableness, in their pain. And you might be sitting there with them, maybe just holding hands or even just sitting next to them. And maybe you're not even saying anything.
That's right.
I mean, Dave and I have had many times like that where like, I don't know, because the word, you can't say any words that makes it less painful. But having your person or someone you trust with you when you're feeling really dark and heavy does make you feel less alone. And that has been a really, really big help, I think, for us anyways, in, you know, just having someone there.
Absolutely. It's huge. And we're not created to go through life alone. We need that community. We need that support. And like you said, you don't have to say anything. We always feel like we have to say something, right? And then we end up saying something that's maybe not overly appropriate or offensive. So the best strategy is like what you're saying, is just be present, right? Witness them, listen. And I love that the words listen and silent have the exact same words in different order. So when we're listening, we're being silent. We're just letting them talk. We don't, as you said, we're not trying to fix them. They're not broken. The process isn't broken. They just have to get through it. And we can't do anything about it other than be there, witness, and love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Really Leanne, I'm glad you brought up the point about the uncomfortable, like, you know, society society doesn't like to be in uncomfortable positions or uncomfortable places, and like I couldn't agree more because um, we tend to, and I think when it comes to grief, because it can be uncomfortable, then there's a tendency to try and hide it, right? To try
Yeah.
and like push it away because we don't want to put that on others around us, so
Right.
that then they feel uncomfortable. So we end up sort of shutting down and pushing it aside rather than just simply saying, you know what, I'm having a really tough day. I'm having a really hard time. Like this is where my thoughts are. Like I'm thinking about this loved one, or I'm thinking about this career that I left, or I'm thinking about whatever it is that you're grieving, rather than just stating and being honest and saying, you know, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm trying to navigate. I'm trying to get through today. This is why I'm, you know, quieter, or I'm a little off today, and I seem uncomfortable. Rather than being honest that way, we tend to just kind of shut down because we don't want to feel as though we are burdening someone else with, you know, those, you know, if you will, as we perceive them, negative thoughts. But they're not negative thoughts. They're just the way that we're trying to navigate this. And I think if society or many others understood that, maybe there'd be like a little bit more comfort in just acknowledging and being okay with saying exactly what I was saying. Hey, I'm going through this today. Sorry, you know, you might want to sit with me, you might not, but this is where I'm at. And you know, hopefully that person will just kind of, as you say, sit in silence and maybe listen to you talk about that person or that whatever it is that you're grieving, and you can share openly with them that conversation. So.
Yeah, I think we need to educate ourselves a little more on grief, and make it normal and make it comfortable. Um, years ago, it was part of life. People lived on farms, uh, animals died, they were born with defects, they were born with issues, or, life and death were part of everyday life. And everyone experienced that. And even our homes used to have wider door frames so that they could fit a coffin through the doorway. We had parlors where, the wake would take place and your friends and neighbors would come over and you would be together. And now we don't have parlors, we have living rooms, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've just tried to shove all of that stuff aside, when it is a normal part of life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you made a point too, grief encompasses so many things. We often think of it including the death of a pet or a loved one, family member, friend, but it's so much more than that, right down to the disappointments we have all during the day. A disappointment where we haven't been seen or heard or loved in the way we needed to be in that moment. That creates disappointment, and that's a grief. And we just dismiss all those things. Mm-hmm. Oh, no big deal, mm-hmm. Right? But those things pile up. So, yeah, I mean, we go through these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I brought that up and mentioned that because, not only have Allie and I gone through grief when it comes to a loved one, a sibling, family members, but, I've had a career transition, a career change, and it was a career that, I was part of. It was a part of me, and I was part of it for 22 years. And so it was somewhat my identity a little bit to a certain extent. And so to shift out of that and to move into something different, I was leaving behind something that was a huge part of my life. 22 years is a long time. And so, I really feel as though I went through a process of grieving what was a big part of me in order to, move forward into something a little bit unknown, a little bit scary, a little bit different. I was comfortable in that, role that I had for 22 years. And so to leave that, there was certainly, bouts of, I'm not going to say depression, but certainly sadness and times of like, feeling heavy and missing that role or that part of me. So it's true. Like it encompasses grief, encompasses a lot more than just, or not just, but losing a family member or a person or a pet, like you mentioned. It can be so much more, and that's all part of it along the way. So.
And it can accompany things that that have positive aspects to them as well, right? Like you're moving to a new city, you're excited, you want that move, but yet you're leaving a lot behind. And so it's all of, there is grief involved in it too. Or you're starting that new job or that new career, and that's exciting. Or a retirement, you're excited about retiring, but yet, as you mentioned, we're leaving a lot of things behind.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of change.
Yeah, and a lot of people too, right? You become
That's right.
really attached to those people. Like I'm in the process of that right now, leaving my old career, about to start a new one. And I had to say goodbye to all my clients last week.
That's hard.
And yeah, I had a pretty chill weekend because I was feeling, kind of down. And even yesterday I was feeling like, this is weird. This is my first Monday with like not seeing, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like some of these clients have been with me for 11 years. I see them, I have coffee with them, do stuff with their dogs, but I become attached to the people, right? So it's it's for sure like all encompassing, and even grieving a ending of a relationship or a friendship. There's a lot of grieving that goes into that too, that I don't think really gets the time or the consideration that maybe it should. I think our society doesn't have a great vocabulary for talking about grief. What in whichever realm you're talking about, it's almost just like it's too sad, so nobody wants to talk about it. We don't know how to talk about it to each other. So I love that you're helping people through this and navigating it, because it is a confusing kind of place to be.
Well, and even to identify the feelings that we're experiencing, sometimes we even have difficulty doing that, or we're so hard on ourselves. Why am I sad about this? Or why am I angry about this? Or why am I disappointed? I shouldn't be, right? And so, there's so many different components to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one we haven't touched on yet too is, especially after a significant loss, whether it's a loved one, family member, even a pet, it changes you as well. And so you're also, not only are you navigating the loss of your person, let's say, for example, you're also now sort of dealing with grieving yourself, because you are changed. You are not going back to who you were before this person died. That person, on some level, you are changed. And there's a lot of pressure from other people in society to be like, oh, when are you going to be back to work? When are you going to be back to your old self? Like, that person is no longer.
That's right.
And it changes you. And I struggled with that hugely after Colin died. I was like, I love dog training. Why don't I love this anymore? Like I couldn't be interested in it the way that I wanted to be, because I was changed. It took me 2 years to really understand that better, and to understand that wasn't going to come back for me in the way that it had before. I mean, I still love dogs. That's not changed, but my passion for it had changed. And what I realized too, in reflecting about all this, is that when I found out that Colin died, I was dog training. And so I don't know if on some sort of like subconscious level, that was just always like an undercurrent for me. I'm not sure. I haven't explored it like super deep yet, because this is a relatively new thought that I've had occur to me. But I'm like, that changes you, and you're trying to navigate missing a person, figuring out all these other things, plus just normal day-to-day stresses. Like, if you're still a parent, you still sort of have to show up for your kids, at least as best you can, but you're also really navigating this new person. And it's a exhausting place to be.
It is. And I think you really need to be intentional to take time to work through it. Because if we're resisting, it continues. Yeah. It's not going to go away, and it will just continue to build. Yeah. So we do need to take that time. And it could be something simple. It could be taking 20 minutes and having a bath. right? Like it just
Mhm.
something that we're taking care of ourselves and we're giving ourselves some downtime.
Yeah.
I think we don't often realize how much time it takes to rest
Mhm.
and to recover. And yeah, to replenish our bodies and get back to a stage where we feel like we can function
Yeah.
at a good level again. So
Yeah,
we
how-
really need to be intentional about
Yeah,
that.
and how important that is.
Absolutely.
And how you can let yourself do that without the guilt or without
Yes.
feeling like you need to quote unquote earn your rest.
Yeah.
Like that whole
Back to the expectations
yes,
again.
yeah, right. It comes back to that. Even yesterday I came home from work and I was feeling really tired. And so I texted Dave and I said, I'm gonna have a nap.
Yeah.
And without, oh, I have to do this, this, and this first, I just said, I'm tired. I am laying down on the couch.
Perfect.
And I didn't actually sleep, but I did lay there for about an hour with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't sleep, but it was restful because I was just letting my body shut down.
Yeah.
And it needed that. And then I was able to carry on with my evening in a better state of mind because I gave myself that time, but it,
that's wise.
Yeah. I think being able to listen to your body and
yes,
and to know that you do need a lot of rest and downtime and sleep to recover from these, some of them, in some cases, could be a traumatic loss. Even if you're losing an elderly parent, that is still so exhausting and so sad. Like it doesn't matter how old or whatever, like grief is grief and love is love and it just hurts no matter what.
Yeah, even if you're expecting it.
Yeah, I think it's just as painful. Like
it is.
I don't think there's any point in kind of measuring one grief against the other.
Oh
like,
no, you can't compare them at all.
And there's no sense in that. Like it just hurts. So just taking the time that you need, and some people will understand it, and you may actually lose some friends along the way too who don't understand. So then you're also grieving.
That's true.
But yeah, it is such a wild ride.
It is a wild ride, but it does get better.
It does. Yeah. And you meet, like, the thing is that comes out of it, if you can look for I don't want to say look for the silver lining, because if you could have your person here, you would, but
absolutely.
You do end up making some really interesting connections and friendships, and your life goes down a path that you never would have expected before. So it is life-changing for sure when you lose someone.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that leads into the last stage of grief, after, if you're following the guidelines of the 6 stages, finding meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So that new person that you've become after the loss, how do you move forward then? And how do you find meaning in that moving forward? Mm-hmm. Which is a pretty interesting topic to jump into well. It's huge.
Yeah.
So not finding meaning in the loss necessarily, because as you said, we wouldn't want that loss necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? We would want to do life without that loss. But if it's happened, how can we take that forward?
Yeah. And carry them with us moving forward in this new path.
Exactly.
And finding a purpose or meaning in your new kind of life, which this is how this podcast started.
Exactly. I was thinking of you guys, like what a perfect example you guys are.
Yeah.
You've done so many amazing things.
Well, we try.
You do a good job.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Leanne, I'm glad you brought up the point of, it changes people, or people change. Like I've witnessed it firsthand with the loss of my sister, and I think about my parents. That was their firstborn, and they are now, over this past year and a half, like I can see it and I can recognize it, and it's interesting. I'm just now, after hearing that, just now trying to piece it together and see that they're actually trying to learn who they are now, because they are now different people individually. That's on their own, but they're also different as a couple as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So their dynamic as a husband and wife and as parents is very different than it was, a year and a half ago. So not only have they changed individually and going through their own grief individually and navigating that, whether it's, physiologically, because, they've had health changes ever like since, almost immediately. And then the emotional aspect of it as well on an individual level. But now they're also grieving together because, I mean, they were both the parents of, obviously of my sister. So now they're trying to navigate their grief as a relationship, as husband and wife together. And
Right.
that's a really complicated, piece to it, I think. So I've been, I'm not going to say studying them over the last year, but I've been keeping a really, really close eye. We're a close family. We've always been a close family, but since the loss of my sister, I find myself, I'm keeping an even closer eye on them for health reasons, but mostly because, as you say, like you just want to love the people around you, and you want them to be okay. It's like the end result of anybody that's around you that you care about. You just want to see them in a good place, and living life and continuing to live a good and fulfilled and happy life. And I think just maybe even recently, now that they're starting to take some more vacations and do some things together and plan some trips and plan this and that, I think I'm starting to see that they're finally maybe navigating through that, and are able to live life again, kind of thing. But for a period of time, it was very apparent that they were dealing with their own grief individually, but also dealing with the grief together, which presented its own challenges. So I'm glad that was brought up, and I hadn't really thought about it on an individual level and couple level until now. So anyways, yeah, that was just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, all good points. And Ali, you had mentioned it's taken you 2 years. And I don't think a lot of people realize that 2 years, that is considered early grief. Early grief, 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think people in society think, oh, well, that loss happened to them a year ago or a year and a half ago. They should be perfectly fine now. No, early grief lasts for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, people think, oh, well, you'll be fine after that. Well, we're not completely fine. It's a process that goes on for the rest of our lives, right? Like, things get better for sure. The feelings that we feel today don't last forever. But we keep growing and we keep moving forward with the person or with that loss and learning from that. But there's literally no timeline.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're not all of a sudden, well, I'm 3 or 5 years out.
Right.
Well, I don't even miss that person anymore.
Exactly.
I'm good to go now. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's just, it feels maybe different as time passes because you learn to carry it differently.
Right.
But you never stop grieving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
David Kessler says, when he's asked how long will my mom be grieving the loss of her spouse? Well, how long is that person going to be dead?
Forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, people expect us to get over it.
Yeah. And you don't.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. You just learn to carry it differently, really, I think. What are some ways that someone could stay connected to someone, like to their loved one who's passed away? Do you have any tips for like that type of thing? Like whether it's maybe writing them a letter, like in a journal type thing, or something else? Like, I'm sure there's lots of different ways.
Yeah, like some really simple things, like just talking to them.
Yeah.
Right? We're driving the car and we're having a conversation with them. I had a client who, her and her husband did a lot together, but they were usually apart during the day. So when they came together at the end of the day, they would, talk about their days and fill each other in. And, oh, I did this and I saw this and I met this person. And, that was a real highlight for both of them to be able to spend some time at the end of the day just sharing those things. And then her husband died. So that was something that she really, really missed, was having that time. And so when she gets home from work, she sits down and she journals for half an hour or so. And it's the same thing. It's like having that conversation. And so that was really helpful to her. I know I have some items, like some clothing items of people that I've lost in the past. And so I wear those items sometimes. I have a couple of pieces of jewelry. I have my grandmother's wedding rings. And when I'm missing them, I wear them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are things we can do. Recognizing special days, maybe the day that you met, or the day the adoption was finalized, or their birthday, or special occasions, all those sorts of things, or eating foods that they loved, going places that you enjoyed going to together. Doing things that you used to do together. I have a client who, her and her husband ran together all the time. And literally the day of his funeral, she came home and went for a run.
Yeah.
And she said some days they talked a lot when they ran. Sometimes they didn't say anything. And so she just runs. And that's when she feels really close to him. Yeah. And she cries and she talks, and, it's really therapeutic for her. And that's something she does to stay connected. We have talked different times about doing art projects, right?
Yes.
So that can be a way of expressing something, and or making a special space in your home. I know you and Dave have a special den that you have set up, and so that's really important. You can go and spend some time there. And in my kitchen, I have a wall that has some of my grandmother's handwritten recipes on it. So having a space in your home that reminds you of them. And maybe you make something from some of their items, taking, maybe your dad's dress shirts and making them into a quilt or pillows or something like that that's usable, something that you can have with you all the time or use all the time. And we talked about finding meaning. How can you take your experience and honor that loss or that person as you move forward?
Yeah. So many. I guess the possibilities are endless for how.
Oh, there's so many things.
Yeah, so many creative ways that you could keep them with you. And it's funny because, like, sometimes, I don't know how woo-woo everybody here wants to get, but there's certain times, man, where I can feel like them calling or Jocelyn with me. Was it yesterday or one day last week? I don't know. I had like massive, just feeling Jocelyn vibes. Like, she was just right there. She's like, you got to wear that ring today. And then I put this outfit on that it was very Jocelyn-y. Like, I was just, I had my hair done. Like, I was feeling, I'm like, she was just with me that morning. I could feel her so like connected to her, and it made me so happy. Yeah. And then I might go weeks without a feeling like that again. Maybe she's out visiting somebody else. I don't know. But it's weird how it will just kind of come to you. Like, I can hear her voice in my head, like, tell me to do something. She was kind of bossy. So, but it's like sometimes I can hear her voice very clearly, and we're lucky that we have a lot of her stuff. So, we can kind of feel very connected to her in our home. With Colin, we don't have a lot of his stuff. Unfortunately, we have a couple things. So we have like a lot of pictures, and that's the other thing too, is we have a lot of pictures of them around our house and us with them, kind of in different spots around the house too. So it's like, you may see me kind of with or I have like a special candle holder that is like a tribute to Colin. And sometimes in the morning I'll like light that and have my coffee with Colin and his candle too. So there's, it doesn't have to be these big elaborate things all the time. It can be a couple minutes where you're just really thinking about them in whatever way you need to, really. Sometimes I'm mad at them and I'll write it out. Like, I'm angry, like, why aren't you here? And then once you kind of get that out of your head, you can move past those feelings. But and
even telling stories, to Josh, telling stories about things that you and Colin did together and the mischief that you got up to, right? Or sharing with Dave about, different memories you have. And so I think those things are really important too, and helps keep them alive. And even when you have family gatherings, some families will literally set a plate for the person that's not there for the event. So tons and tons of ways that you can stay connected. But I love that story that you're just feeling the vibes.
I was feeling her so
That's
so
awesome.
much. I'm like,
that.
it was a good day.
I was just sorry, just gonna jump in for a sec, but so Leanne joined us for dinner tonight before we came on to record this podcast. And Leanne, you probably noticed some dinner music in the background.
Yes, I did.
You did,
I
yeah.
did notice.
So that it's just some piano instrumental music
Yeah.
playlist that I have. That particular playlist, when my sister was nearing the end, and she was resting for most of the time. I brought in my speaker to her room, and I would play that playlist. And she, as I mentioned, she was a high school music teacher, so music was a very big part of our life in the Curvin family. And so I would play that playlist at piano instrumental music, and it was just nice for us to sit with her and be with her, and the family relatives would come in and stuff. And so every other Sunday, now that Allie and I are in this new house, every other Sunday we've created family dinner. So my parents and Allie's parents, and Josh, and our oldest, if he's available, and his girlfriend, they'll come out to the house, and we'll have a family Sunday dinner. And I traditionally will put that playlist on every single Sunday evening. And for the most part, I'll be honest with you, I put it on for most dinners. And like you said, it's a way for me to be connected to my sister and to have her present with us for that family dinner. And to me, it's not so much a sad time, or think like I get really depressed or down. It's I celebrate the closeness that our family had, and that connection to music, and it's a way of honoring her. That's how I look at it. And so hearing that music in the background, I have a warm feeling, and I almost smile at times, because I know that she's there with us through this music, and she's connected. And so playing that at the dinner table, it just as you mentioned, like it keeps that connection, and it keeps that celebration, if you will. So it keeps it in a positive light, rather than being at sort of a downtime or whatever. It's calming too. So I just want to bring that up. Yeah.
It was calming. I found it very soothing and relaxing, and I love that.
And Josh recognizes it too, so we'll put it on, cool. And he'll say, "Oh, is this Jocelyn's music?" Right? Like he's made this connection that That's awesome. Music represents her.
Yeah.
And like they had a pretty close relationship too. They got to spend a lot of time together when she was feeling pretty healthy, and like he loved her. Like he talks about her all the time, and we keep him connected to Colin, like by going to visit Colin's like final resting place, right? We go, and Josh has brought him a little car, and on a nice day, like we'll have a picnic there.
That's awesome.
So he, like, even though Josh is only 8 and he was even younger when they passed away, like he has grown up sort of almost with what I would consider a healthier understanding of death, because when I was little, I mean, I lost grandparents and stuff, but it was like you go to the funeral and then like you just didn't talk about it again, because not because my parents were trying to like not let us, but it just like wasn't, back then it just wasn't discussed. At least when we grew up, it was just like, they passed away and we're sad, and now we don't really talk about them anymore. Whereas like, I mean, Josh has got a lot of experience with losing an aunt and uncle, and also many, like, a couple dogs in his lifetime too, and a cat. So he has a good understanding, and he'll be like, "Oh, do you think, he'll like either say, Rosie, or which was our dog that passed away, or Uncle Colin, or whoever, are they up in the clouds? Do you think they're watching us?" Right? Like, that's kind of, I didn't know how else to put it to him. So that's kind of where I said, they're always with us, and they're watching us. And so he has like a very interesting understanding of death, because we've been very open about talking to him about it, because he's lived through it. So I think he's going to have a different relationship with losing people than maybe what I had, definitely at his age too.
It's so important for kids to see it and understand it. And even sometimes, and I think sometimes parents try to shield their kids from it. Even when a pet dies and they make up some sort of excuse about why the guinea pig is not in the house anymore, and the kids need to understand. They have questions.
Yeah.
And it helps them to process later on in life as well. And what a great opportunity for you and Dave to be able to have these discussions with him. And he sees the two of you being vulnerable and open and honest and expressing feelings. He understands feelings. He understands how to talk about them. Like all of those things are tremendous lessons for him as he moves forward. So important.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Good life skill. Yeah. And if
Absolutely.
if I'm like quiet or whatever, sometimes I'm just driving and I'm just focusing on driving. He'll say, "Oh, are you really missing Auntie Jocelyn today?" Like he really is in tune. And honestly, sometimes I'm just kind of focused on driving and I'm not really thinking that much. I'm just kind of doing my thing, but he picks up on like, if we're kind of down, he's like really in tune with it. And he that's one of his go-to things. Like, "Oh, is it because you're missing this person today?" And sometimes he's right. And I'll definitely say, "Yeah, I am really missing them. It's kind of hurting more today.
Yeah.
Let's tell it." And then he wants to hear a story about them. And that kind of brings you back out of it too. So he can be a very helpful, kind of helping you navigate too, as hard as it can be to parent when you're really feeling down. They can kind of pull you out of those really sad times too. So it's I'm glad that we've been very open with it, because it's going to be, I think, an asset to him later on.
Oh, it will, for sure. And you're instilling a sensitivity and a compassion, and an intuitiveness, right? And an awareness for him that maybe someone else wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, and who knows where that'll take him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It'll be interesting to see, what he does as he grows up.
And that's just it. Like, hopefully we are teaching him as the next generation that being open and honest and having conversation about losing a loved one or grieving, well, anything for that matter, doesn't have to be a person, but a pet, like you mentioned, career, whatever it is, that's normal conversation, and you can have normal conversation, and maybe he's going to lead that example, and he's going to set that example for others to follow, that what, it's okay to have these conversations. It's okay to share the stories and tell the stories, and to honor that person, and this is normal now. So hopefully, because I think we're right now kind of, and that's the hopes of this conversation right here, is that we are transitioning into making things more normal when we're discussing or talking about grief. And so then his generation, it's just, you just talk about it, and it's just open, and you can openly have that conversation. It's not uncomfortable, and then it's healthier, right? It's healthier for the mental health. It's healthier, as we mentioned, physiologically. They're not building up that tension, and it's released. And if they need to express emotions, then that's normal, and they can navigate that. So hopefully that's the direction that we're headed.
Sounds like it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on or ask Leanne triggers. So, and we mentioned triggers. We talked about like certain sounds, or visual stimulus, smells, things like that. Do you have any sort of advice with regards to someone in their grief process when they encounter certain triggering reactions or certain triggering things that may bring up certain difficult memories, difficult events? Because personally, I find there's a lot of things in my world, in my life, that are triggering things, and I have to like take a few breaths or a few moments to sort of navigate. And sometimes I'm uncertain on like how I should go about it. But so I just wanted to get your thoughts on certain triggers.
Yeah. So even the actual word can be a trigger for some people, depending on the situation that they have been through. So I use the word activator rather than using the word trigger, because it does activate, right? Like it's the heightened emotions that come up for us, and we can't control those things, even around us, right? So, for example, if a black pickup truck is an activator for us, we can't remove that from the world. We're going to see those things, right? So we have to find ways that we're able to, so they put us in a fight, flight, or freeze state, right? So how can we take that down a little bit? So we can do breathing exercises. There's certain things that we can do. We can go somewhere in our mind, maybe a really special place for us, a quiet place in our minds, even if we can't get away to do that. Going outside, if we can do that, just something that brings us back to where we are in this present moment. So maybe walking barefoot, drinking water, just something that gives us sensory awareness in a different form. And those can be different for different people. And when we have that really intense reaction, a really important thing to do is get curious about that. Where is that coming from? Why do I have that reaction? Why is it so intense? And digging into that a little bit, finding out the root cause, and then we can kind of work through it so that when we see that or hear that noise or smell that scent, it's not as intense for us. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. There's certain sounds like I mentioned that are triggering for me, and I'm navigating, finding ways to sort of manage them, pause for a minute, and just work through it. And I've always been a glass half empty sort of person. So I look at it as an opportunity to grow and learn, a little bit more about myself and how I handle certain situations, and even just telling myself, you know what, you're okay. You're going to be okay. And, just breathe, and you can work through this and move on and carry on to the next thing. But at least acknowledging that, there was an activator present, and I'm still okay, and I'm going to be okay. So,
do you mean glass half full?
Did I say glass half empty?
You did, and I'm like, I don't think that's what you meant.
It's not what I meant at all. And thank you. Glass half full. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Never glass half full.
I know. I was like,
I'm glad you caught that, Allie, because we talk about that all the time.
I know. We just had a conversation about it this morning.
Yeah.
And I was like,
pessimistic.
No, that's not you.
Glass half full.
You are.
Yeah.
Which, makes things, I don't know. Yeah, makes things easier.
Well, and your point about pausing, I mean, that's huge. And as you get curious and try and figure out where all of this is coming from, that is like a map for us. As you were saying, it gives us a map for healing. Where do we need to dig into that? What do we need to do? So yeah, that's key for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you think in certain situations you can almost like be aware that you're very triggered, but if you get in front of it a little bit and you can be like, I'm just going to deal with this a little bit later because right now I cannot deal with it. Do you think that that's a thing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you bring up a good point in planning ahead as well.
Yeah.
Like if you know that you're going to be in a situation where you might experience that activator,
mm-hmm.
you can plan that out.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to do if I'm there and I have this experience?
Mm-hmm.
How can I handle that?
Yeah.
And maybe telling the person you're with.
Yeah.
Right. So that they're aware also. And then you can kind of work through it together. But yeah, I mean, depending on how intense the reaction is, you could put it on pause, but you definitely want to deal with it.
Come back to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I had to do that early on in our grief.
Okay.
My grief with Colin.
Okay.
Involving having to go on the subway.
Oh.
And I sort of didn't really realize that we were going on the subway until it was happening.
Caught you by surprise.
But it did, but I was just enough ahead of it that I thought I am going to just put this in my back pocket.
Yeah.
I was with two people that I trust very much, Dave's aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. They kind of knew what was going on. And I sort of just like went really quiet and I was like, I'm not going to freak out right here. and we'll just unpack this a little bit later. But that was like a huge, like, that was the first like experience with that. And it was like, had I let myself spin out of control, I would have, but thankfully I caught it just in time. And I was able to just kind of go quiet and then I had a therapist, like I was seeing a therapist at the time, and we unpacked it there together.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I told Dave and he knew too, and his aunt and uncle were aware, but I didn't go into super big detail. But with my therapist, we unpacked it in there. So, and she was like, wow, it's really good that you could do that. But I wouldn't want to make that like my normal way to go about things.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, if you're able to, like, it's maybe not necessarily the worst thing to do either.
Right. You did actually really, really well, because it was something that took you off guard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're
and
like
you were
walking
still able
down the
to-
stairs, and I was like, oh my God, but this is how we were getting home. So there was
you
no
knew you
there
had
was
to
no
do
other
it,
option.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
just-
that's perfect.
yeah.
You did a really great
Yeah.
job with that.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should be a grief educator.
Well, we talked about it, right? I mean, maybe one day. Yeah. I wanted to do this.
I don't think the two of you need to be paired up any more than you already are right now.
Listen, Dave, we do day retreats and they're awesome.
We do. We've done grief retreats. We've done day retreats.
They are
I mean,
awesome.
we're a good pair. I would be interested in doing the grief educator course, even just for my own personal. I think it would be fascinating. Like, I'm very interested in it, and I could see myself doing it at some point in the future. But not just yet. I think maybe a little bit further down the line, and then we'll see. But I mean, we've been doing some pretty cool things with your experience and my yoga and my personal grief experience.
Well, we all have those.
We all have those. And I mean, but it's like, it's such a cool thing getting to come together with a couple different people and having specific, I also have found like having specific grief time to connect with other people who are experiencing their own grief has also been really empowering and really healing too. So I'm glad that we've been able to do that. And I've been able to participate in something like that, run through hospice, which they do some amazing programs there too, for different specific grief groups and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
They offer a lot of resources.
Yeah. So that's another kind of lifeline for people too, if they're going through a big loss and they want to reach out to hospice, they can do that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. They have a website, Hospice Peterborough, or wherever you live. I'm sure there would be a hospice that is not too far away.
Yeah.
Even if you just give them a call and ask what resources they have or check out their website, you can always do that. And there are, as I said, so many resources that you can plug into that it's fantastic, and different levels of support. And yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, very cool. Very good. Dave, I think you might be frozen. You are. Okay. Well, I think maybe we'll wrap this up because Dave is frozen. And as we've been going on, his audio has been getting worse and worse. So, Leanne, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. This is fun.
It's so fun. I know. And if people have questions and they want to reach out to you directly, what is the best way? Like, is there an email address that you'd like to leave, or on Instagram? Like, is there a special spot that they can find you?
So I'm on Instagram. There's a couple of spots you can find me. So at Leanne Freymond is one. I have a website that is 338.ca, which is not the digits, but the actual words.
Yes.
338.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also on Facebook as well. So
Awesome. People can reach out if they have more grief questions.
Absolutely.
Or do you so if you had a client who wanted to do just like a one-on-one grief session, I guess, for lack of a better word, people can do that.
absolutely.
Right? Okay, cool. So local. And if they were not local, could you do it virtually with people?
Yes, I do have lots of virtual clients.
Okay,
so
yeah.
it can be done either way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, cool. I get to come over just to have fun.
Absolutely.
I know.
That's the best way.
I know. Man, when we try to plan something, we have to plan like 4-hour block just to plan like one thing that could take a normal person about 10 minutes, because we get very sidetracked. We like to have snacks. there's lots of laughing, and it's just all over the place.
We can get distracted.
We get really distracted, but we do. I mean, when we do put an event on, it is very fun.
I
very
love
good.
them, actually. I
I
find
know.
them rich, and I just love them.
Yeah, let's plan another one for this summer.
Actually, I had someone ask me when we were going to do our next event.
Oh my God! Well, let me get my calendar out after this and book it now.
I'm in.
All right, amazing.
I came back in. I know I was glitched for a little while and broken and stuff, but just on a final note, you brought up a really good point though at the end, and I think that's key is having people around you that are supportive and positive and lighthearted, and you can laugh with, and you can just spend time with and be together. You two have that connection, or the three of us have that connection. And we have a lot of laughs and we have a lot of lighthearted moments, and it's a great connection, and it's a really good community support. And so even though like Ali and I have been grieving over the last couple of years, having that connection with someone like you and others that are that positive aspect of your life, it's a really key component just to have that support and to keep life fun and to keep life, feel fulfilled and in a positive direction. So I think that was just maybe a key note to kind of end on is, grow your community if you can.
Yeah, for sure. And even to like being able to laugh even when you're grieving. I mean, you have to let yourself, if you can, give yourself some breaks from that heaviness wherever you can. You can set it down mentally, like set your grief down to the side, focus on something that brings you some joy if you can, even if it's only for a minute of just giving yourself, especially early on, giving yourself a couple breaks, because you just have to. It's it's just, it helps you. And it seems impossible at first, but the first time you laugh, you almost feel guilty because you're like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing because my person is gone and I'm sad. But you can laugh and feel sad at the same time. Like, it's not one without the other. It's all of the feelings are happening all the time. So finding some joy and some laughter along the way is totally okay. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thanks, Leanne, so much. This is really great, and I learned a lot, I know, so I hope others did as well. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Anytime. We'll have you back again.
Perfect. Are you going to feed me again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everybody who comes as a guest gets sourdough bread.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I know.
Love it.
What a time to be alive. Okay. Bye.